What's going on, everybody? Today, we have a co-founder of the AFC East Roundtable and a YouTuber with over 20,000 subscribers. Everybody, Patriots Global, what's going on? How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. Like I was saying, I mean, it's an absolute honor. I know you guys play tonight. It's going to be a good one. And I can't wait to hear who you guys have tonight, because yesterday on the AFC East Roundtable, they were chopping it up. And it's going to be a really good game, especially for both of these teams, who everybody's trying to kind of figure out who's going to be the head of the division. I don't think it's going to be the Jets. I think the Jets are overhyped. I think it's going to be the Bills or the Dolphins. So it's going to be a good game.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think this game has a lot of implications. I mean, especially for the future of the season. Like, if you win this game, the confidence that the locker room is going to have is huge. So, I mean, personally, I think it's between the Dolphins and the Bills. But the Patriots with the surprising win, what was that about? What's going on there?
Hey, man, look, I try to tell everybody. I was like, look, Joe Burrow, the Bengals, they start the season off slow. They lost the season opener in 2023, 2022, 2020, and 2019. I think everybody was sleeping on the Patriots. We don't really know the dynamic, the philosophy around this team yet. That's still being kind of built right now. And I feel like until teams kind of start figuring out what that is, that's going to help the Patriots. That's going to give them momentum. But honestly, man, everybody was getting on me specifically, especially over at the AFC's Roundtable and Roundtable Sports, even on my own channel. Everybody was clowning me. You know, Patriots will be lucky to get one win. And I was like, look, this defense, the special teams, it is way too good to only be a 1 or 2 win team. Last year, the Patriots lost 8 games by 1 possession that either came down to Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi turning the ball over or Chad Ryland missing a field goal. They upgraded at the quarterback position. Believe it or not, Jacoby Brissett is a massive upgrade, especially in terms of not turning the ball over. Let's keep in mind, okay, Jacoby Brissett is the second best all time in terms of interception percentage, only behind Aaron Rodgers. In fact, after Aaron Rodgers turned the ball over week 1, Jacoby Brissett might have actually went up to the best all time. So that's definitely an upgrade there for the Patriots, who just need the quarterback to play clean football. And then Joey Sly, who was 3 for 3 on his kicks just in that Cincinnati game. So I think everybody's sleeping on the Patriots. I'll be the first to tell you, we're not going to the playoffs. This is the blueprint for the Patriots is not CJ Stroud, the Houston Texans. The blueprint is Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. This is a 2-3 year rebuild, but I think everybody was sleeping on this team a little bit too much. You got to put respect on the Patriots. Every time you think the evil empire is dead, they end up coming back and biting you in the butt when you turn their backs to them.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots win. I know that the Bengals always start off slow, but that's personally surprised me. I was scoreboard watching that game. What's your ceiling for the Patriots?
Yeah, my ceiling for the Pats is about 7 wins. Earlier on, I did project them to have 7 wins. Then they lost Christian Barmore unexpectedly. They got rid of Matthew Judon. So, you know, my record prediction for the Patriots now is about 6 wins. I think they're going to be better, like I said, than people think. I think that their floor is going to end up being 4 wins, but I have them somewhere between 6 to 7 max. I think that's kind of that realistic area. Just proving people wrong, right? At the end of the day, just making progress. That's the name of the game for the Patriots this season. The name of the game isn't going to the playoffs, competing for a Super Bowl, winning a playoff game. Well, that would be great, and no Patriots fan is going to complain if that happens. At the end of the day, if you leave the season just being 1 game better than you were last year, if you leave the season saying you hit on Jalen Polk or Javon Baker, and most importantly, you have a future with Drake May, and the future of this team is bright, you hit on head coach Gerard Mayo, then this is a successful season for the Patriots.
Oh, yeah. And personally, I think my ceiling for the Patriots has to be 7 wins. Especially if Drake May gets in, because, I mean, who really knows what's going on with the QB position. But Jacoby Brissett, I do know from personal experience, he can get it done. He's not a guy that's going to go down and push the ball downfield like a Josh Allen type of player, like anything like that. But he does get it done. So I think my ceiling for them would be 7 wins, just like what you said. But I think my floor for them has got to be like 3, because I think there's definitely a world where they could go on and they could win 7, but there's also a world where I see them that they just offense can't push the ball downfield. The defense, I mean, it could be like how the Jets were last year, where the Jets defense was really good, but statistically they weren't all there due to how bad the offense was. So I think it could be around the same thing. But what about you, Landon? What do you think the ceiling and the floor is for the Patriots?
I'm gonna say ceiling is around the 6 to 7 win. I agree with what you're saying. I think they're gonna. I like how you said. I mean, a Detroit Lions kind of Dan Campbell type team. I've seen a lot of people on social media and stuff trying to compare them to the CJ Stroud story and all that. I don't see that at all. But I mean, I think they're going to be a gritty team. I think they're going to come out in some games, and I'm going to say their ceiling is 6 to 7 wins. Floor, I'll give them 4. I mean, like he said, I mean, their defense is still good. Their special teams is, I mean, last year their special teams was pretty good in like kick blocking and all that. And I think that, I don't know, it's kind of just what the Patriots do. They kind of just win when they shouldn't win. So
They surprise everyone, right? I mean, the Patriots too. They have the second hardest, or the second hardest schedule according to strength of the schedule. Last year it was first, so they haven't been given any favors. The schedule's marginally easier than it was last year, just a little bit. But this is a tough schedule. I mean, the 49ers, the Patriots aren't favored in a single game this season, but I mean, you also play teams like the Titans, you play teams like the Cardinals. You never know what's going to happen with those in division games, especially with, again, not knowing how the Patriots are going to run their team. The Jets looked like they were humans week 1. Are they ever going to bounce back? That's a big question mark. Patriots were able to pull one up against the Buffalo Bills last year too, Lando. I know, I'm sure you remember that game. I think that's probably the biggest game that Patriots fans remember. We didn't have a lot to look forward to last year, but I think that was probably the surprise game of the season for us. And, I love Josh Allen, but there's definitely some question marks about that Buffalo Bills team, who obviously lost a lot of pieces during the offseason. So can the Patriots maybe pull one up against the Dolphins? Can they pull one up against the Jets or the Bills? There's always a potential for that too.
Yeah. And especially the one thing that I have for the Patriots that I'm like high on them for is their coach. Gerard Mayo, I think, is a very good head coach. I like where he's came from, and I like his coaching style. And originally, I didn't appreciate it enough. I'd say I was on Twitter saying that like it wasn't very like a good move for them. But the more I let it marinate, I think it is going to be a really good move for them and a long-term coach. So, what do you think about Gerard Mayo?
Yeah, I was kind of on the kind of same page as you were for a little bit there. Originally, I thought that this was the hire that made the most sense. Now, I think that Gerard Mayo was taken over a little bit sooner than ideally Robert Kraft, Patriots owner, was expecting. I think that he was expecting another year, 2 years max out of Bill Belichick before he walked away. Honestly, I think Belichick's towards the end of his coaching career. I think all Belichick wanted to do and still wants to do before he retires is ultimately get that all-time win record over Don Shula. I think that's the only reason that he's still trying to come back in the NFL. That's the only thing that he really has left to prove is if you're the greatest coach of all time, right? You got to come out not just with the Super Bowl wins and the numbers there, but you also have to be able to come out with the total number of wins all time. So I think, with Belichick, that's what he was trying to kind of still try to prove there. But with how he was last year, I mean, Patriots had to take a step back. The way that I see it is Belichick was a great coach for the early 2000s and the 2010s era, but this is a very different style of football that we're looking towards the NFL. I mean, it's really changed with the times. These younger coaches are the ones going to Super Bowls, are the ones that players want to actually go ahead and play for because they are players' coaches. You look at Dan Campbell, you look at Sean McVay, you look at even the Dolphins head coach, Mike McDaniels. You guys have these young coaches who are really good, fun coaches that players want to play for, and it is adapting. As where Belichick, even if you look at Pete Carroll, he's not a head coach in the NFL. The Seattle Seahawks moved on because it's kind of similar to Belichick where, like, I hate to refer to it this way, but it's what it is. It's like that military-esque style of coaching. Hard love, hard nose. You're not necessarily going to love coming to work because it's laser focus, as Tom Brady would always say. And I feel like these younger players, they just don't respond well to that from the collegiate level. As they transition to the NFL, like I said, they want a player's coach. They want somebody who they can relate to, that they can come and not feel like they're working every day. Come in and love what they're doing every single day. And I feel like, me, I'm only 22, and even you guys can kind of attest to it that, as you're growing up here, you want to enjoy your life. You want to go somewhere that you enjoy. You don't want to work this 9 to 5. You want to smile every day when you're heading to work, right? You want to do something that you love. And it's really the same thing for these players. And I think that that's what Gerard Mayo is bringing. To me, he's not an X's and O's type of coach, right? He'll do great on defense. He learned under Belichick. He was one of the greatest Patriots linebackers of all time, Pro Bowler, all time, first team All-Pro, when he was in the NFL. That defense is still going to be good. He can still scheme things up and be a good coach when he has to scheme things up. But I think he is going to be, like I mentioned, more of that Dan Campbell, that Mike McDaniels version, to where he said this himself. The X's and O's are important, but being a head coach isn't all about the X's and O's. Sometimes it's just about getting your players to play as a unit, to play as a team, to play not for themselves, but to play for the person towards their left and towards their right. And I think that if you can get your players to buy in your philosophy, into your team, then sometimes, me personally, I believe that the mental side of things, the mental side of football is just as important to the physical side. It's just as important as building a roster full of unbelievable talent. And again, I know I said this a lot, but I revert back to Dan Campbell and what the Detroit Lions have been able to do, because they've turned things around. They've turned things around. And yes, that roster is really good now, but it took them time to be good. And the reason that they took progress as much as they had over the last 3 years, I mean, in 2021, they went from like a 3-win team. Then in 2022, they were able to go from first half of the season not being very good, second half of the season turning it on, being one of the best teams in football, missing the playoffs by like 1 game. Then in 2023, they were tied for the best overall record in the NFL and really should have represented the NFC in the Super Bowl. So again, I think a player who can just bring the team together and motivate them mentally and make them feel important, make them feel wanted, I think is so valuable in today's NFL. And we're seeing that even week 1 with Gerard Mayo and that kind of post-game kind of video that they have coming out.
Yeah, and I think there is a coaching switch where that hard-nosed type of coaching style really is getting phased out. And if you look at the average age for head coaches, that has gone way down. I mean, I think the oldest coach right now might be Andy Reid. I can't even think other than that, and maybe the Bucs guy. But Landon, what do you think about Gerard Mayo?
I mean, I think it's important that, I mean, they got, like he said, a little. I mean, I don't know how old Gerard Mayo is. I mean, he played he's probably in his how old is he? Late 30s.
34, something like that.
Yeah,
he was the youngest head coach in the NFL. And then who is it? McDonald, who's the not the Ravens head coach, but the Ravens offensive coordinator, who's now the Seahawks head coach. He came in a couple weeks after Gerard Mayo, and now he's the youngest. So right now, Gerard Mayo is the second youngest head coach in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what he was saying about, I mean, young coaches change cultures and all that. But it's also great that he has a player perspective, as he was a really good player in the league. So for a defensive-minded kind of head coach, I mean, I know all about the defensive-minded head coaches, as we have one ourselves. And I mean, it honestly is great, just because when McDermott's calling the plays, our defense is really good. So if Gerard Mayo can kind of be like that, I don't know if he's calling the plays in New England, but I mean, I like defensive coaches just because, I mean, defense is really important. And I think he's going to be a good coach. I mean, maybe some ups and downs this year, but I mean, it's not the overly talented team. And I think that Gerard Mayo in the future will become a really good coach.
Yeah. And the one thing that I think he's doing great is the way that he's handling the quarterback position, not throwing Drake May right into the Wolves, where as another defensive coach, Brian Flores, he threw Tua in at week 6. The plan was week 11. Bye week got switched to week 6. He just threw him in against the Rams, who is widely regarded as the best defensive line in the league with Aaron Donald. And he just threw him in. So what Gerard Mayo is doing with Drake May, in my opinion, is a great thing. What do you think about Drake May's situation? And how do you think he's going to start at any point in the season?
Yeah, I mean, that Tua situation, man, like we talk in New England and we say that's the blueprint on what not to do with a quarterback, because y'all threw him in a little bit too soon at the worst moment. And really not just that, y'all end up taking him back out. And the thing is that when you put in your franchise young quarterback, especially for the first time, you can't take him out, whether it's an injury or not. Like if you're putting him in week 3, he's starting the rest of the season as long as he's healthy. If he sucks, that stinks for you. Guess what? You have to reevaluate, because you evaluated the situation incorrectly in the beginning. So that's kind of what we say, what not to do with Drake May. And I think Gerard Mayo and this coaching staff, they know that. They saw what happened with Tua, but not just that. More specifically, they saw what happened with Mac Jones. I mean, Gerard Mayo started coaching here in New England as a linebackers coach in 2019. So he was here when Mac Jones was drafted, and really well before in 2021, and saw that process and saw what Bill Belichick did the wrong way. I mean, Mac Jones in his rookie season was a good quarterback. He was statistically like the 12th best quarterback in the league that year. He was like rookie of the month. He was a Pro Bowler. He was an NFL top 100. He was really down to the wire with Jamar Chase for offensive rookie of the year. We thought we had something with Mac Jones, but Bill Belichick basically asked Mac Jones to do things that Tom Brady was doing after Mac's rookie year. And that's just, you're never going to succeed that way. He got rid of his veteran mentor quarterback. Mac Jones had a new offensive coordinator every single year that he was here in New England. And that's just not how you build around a young quarterback. Also, Mac Jones probably should have sat for a period of time. And I'm sure you guys know this, but look at some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Even in NFL history, those guys have sat for a period of time. Tom Brady sat for a period of time. Aaron Rodgers sat for a period of time. Even if you want to look in today's NFL, Jordan Love sat for a couple of years. Patrick Mahomes sat for almost his entire year. Justin Herbert, who was comped to, or I should say rather, who Drake May was comped to, he sat for like 2 games, and then he came in because Tyrod Taylor ended up going down with like a crazy like lung puncture. I think that even then they wanted Justin Herbert to sit a little bit longer. And you can go on and on and on talking about the quarterbacks that sat for a period of time. And I think the Patriots understand the value there. They understand that you're thinking about the next 10 years. You're not thinking about the next 10 months. And I understand that even as a Patriots fan, yeah, you want to see what you have because you know what Jacoby Brissett is, right? You don't really know what Drake May is. Drake May could be better. Drake May could be worse. Right now, think about it as Drake May is like this surprise box. That could be anything. Drake May could be a yacht, or Drake May could be one of those like wooden boats, right? You just don't know what you're going to get. It's kind of like when Patriots fans were rooting for Bailey Zappi over Mac Jones. It was because this is a new guy who has shown potential, but we don't really know what he is yet. We want to see what the surprise is rather than knowing what we have. And as to Patriots fans, my message would kind of be just kind of calm down because, like I said, you're thinking about the next 10 years and not the next 10 months. Yes, we want to know what, Drake May is going to be immediately off the bat, but he's shown the potential. And again, you look at that blueprint of sitting a quarterback, and I'm a lot more excited to see what Drake May can do down the line rather than seeing what Drake May can do right now because I believe in Jacoby Brissett, and I believe that what he can do up until Drake May is ready. Even in practice this past week, there was a video that surfaced, and you see Jacoby Brissett mentoring Drake May, telling him what to do and what not to do. And I think that's what is so valuable because the Patriots are in a position where they don't need to be successful right now. They don't need to throw Drake May out into the fire. I mean, think about it. Everybody's doubting you. Nobody thinks you're going to be a good team. You have a good defense. You have a good special teams. You can afford to sit Drake May for an entire year, for 2 years if they really want to, because you're not in a window where you have to win right now. You understand that you're a new head coach. You understand that you're in a rebuilding mode. You understand that the roster that Belichick has built over the last few years is lacking a lot of talent, and it's going to take time for that to get better. And that's something the Patriots have going for them. If Belichick was here and they were trying to win a Super Bowl right now, maybe Drake May would be starting, but that wouldn't be the right way to do it. I even look at the Broncos and what they're doing with Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix should be sitting. I don't think Bo Nix should be starting football right now. So overall, I think that Drake May coming out of the draft, he had all the talent in the world, all the physical talents that if you're building up a quarterback in a lab, you're going to come out with Drake May. It was the mental side that he needs to work on. We knew that he needed to develop a little bit. And I think what we saw in the preseason, what we saw in training camp is that once everything slows down for him mentally, his physical talents are just naturally going to showcase themselves. I mean, again, we started to see that in the preseason, that final third preseason game against the Commanders, where he goes out wide, extends a play, throws across his body to an open KJ Osborne who goes into the end zone. At the end of the day, yes, it was called back, but those are the plays that Drake May is going to make consistently once he starts to be more confident from a mental standpoint.
Yeah. And I completely agree with what you said about pulling your guy. In that Broncos game and that Raiders game, yeah, we did win the Raiders game that year in 2020 with that insane Ryan Fitzpatrick throw. But what is it worth? Like that 10-win season that we had, or to his confidence that he wasn't confident in himself until Mike McDaniels came in and told him that he was all that. I think it's really important to keep your guy in when he's in, and you can't just take out a young quarterback. It's terrible for their confidence. When you're talking about Drake May, I completely agree with that physical attributes. It almost reminds me of Josh Allen, and especially watching Hard Knocks where Brian Dable had Josh Allen and then he was talking to Drake May in the draft process. It kind of did remind me of like a Josh Allen type of thing where He doesn't have it all the way mentally yet, but that's something you can develop. You can't develop the physical attributes that he had. So Landon, what can you like kind of put into perspective, like from where Josh Allen came from to where he is at now? Do you think Drake May can make the same progressions?
I mean, it's really all about the coaching that he goes around. I mean, Josh never really had a mentor guy, but he had the perfect situation of people around him with Brian Dable and Ken Dorsey as his quarterback coach. I mean, those are two guys that really helped out in Josh's development so much. I mean, Ken Dorsey, I mean, he was a guy, he was in the NFL. I mean, he didn't really do anything, but Miami, he played on those really good Miami teams and broke records there. I mean, that's just a great quarterback coach to have because he knows kind of where Josh is coming from and how he can help him get it like up to speed with the NFL. And I mean, Brian Dable is just an offensive wizard. I mean, he was so good. And it all comes down to the coaching staff that you have. Because if you surround a good quarterback with bad coaches, the quarterback's going to look worse than he actually is. But where if you have really good coaches, it's going to make that quarterback excel.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I think Drake May has it. Like, he has the it factor. Personally, I just didn't see the mental part when he was at North Carolina. But I think with the Patriots, I mean, they have such a rich history. I don't see how he doesn't flourish in that, like, system. I mean, I know it's a new system, new coaches, everything. I think he can do really good. And I think after this year, Jerod Mayo will end up being at least the third best coach in the AFC East. I'm not a big Saleh guy. What do you think about Saleh?
Dude, I said this to Richie, and I know he got a little pressed at one point. You know, Richie gets a little press on the AFC East when you attack the Jets a little bit, which I get. I can respect it. But I think that Robert Saleh is going to be the Achilles heel to that team. I mean, I think we saw it against the 49ers. There were Jets fans coming at me being like, you know, this is a 12-13 win Jets team. We're going to the Super Bowl, and, you know, we're beating the 49ers when we see them in the Super Bowl. And it's just like, dude, you just got blown out by them week one. And the best part about the Jets was that defense, right? I mean, Richie was glazing them up. PFF was glazing them up all offseason with, you know, their cornerbacks and that secondary and their linebackers, and especially that defensive line. And that defensive line didn't show up in the slightest. And again, that is like the bread and butter to Robert Saleh. And he just totally crapped the bag. I mean, I feel like he really hasn't done anything. And yes, he hasn't had a quarterback, but you've had such a great defense. You've put it together. And look, game one, yes, it was against one of the best teams, not the best team in the NFL with the 49ers, but you got to have a much better defensive game. You know the 49ers. He used to be a coach for the 49ers. You have the defense. You have the players in place, and you still got absolutely wiped. I think that they're going to need a better coach. Like you guys kind of alluded to earlier, it doesn't matter how good or bad your roster is. Coaching matters. Coaching is probably the number one most important thing because a good coach can make a bad roster look good, and a bad coach can make a good roster look bad. And I just don't think that Robert Saleh is that guy. My hot take is that the Jets don't perform anywhere as good as people are expecting. I don't think they're a 12-win team, a 13-win team. Maybe they go to the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to win the AFC East. I don't think they're winning a playoff game. I don't think they're going to the Super Bowl. And I think Robert Saleh is going to be on the hot seat by the end of the season.
I agree with VJC here, where I don't even think the Jets are going to make the playoffs. You got to look at how competitive the AFC actually is. The AFC is a ridiculous conference. Every single team, like there's at least 3 teams from the division that could win the division, go to the playoffs. I mean, every single team has so much talent, and that's kind of like the modern day NFL where there's so much talent in the league. I don't see how the Jets, with poor coaching, like what I've been saying about Saleh, I don't see how they could even make the playoffs this year, where obviously it might be a little overreaction. It is week one, but I'm not a big Saleh guy at all, and I don't like the coaches that they have around them. I also am a little nervous about the Jets' offensive line. You look at them; they're so injury prone. I mean, one dink, and there's one guy gone, the next guy's gone. It's very scary. They're a very old team. Aaron Rodgers did not look good. Aaron Rodgers actually had exactly the same game, maybe 20 more yards than Zach Wilson had against the Bills in week one. Aaron Rodgers doesn't look good. You look at your team, you have Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, who are your upsides, but we'll see what they can end up doing. Tonight is Thursday Night Football. The Miami Dolphins are facing the Buffalo Bills at home.
Oh, yeah.
What is your game prediction for that game?
Look, so I have so much respect for the Bills and Bills Mafia. Look, I don't know what it is, and I don't know why it's like this, but I feel like the teams that are actually performing well, that actually win games, that are the best of the NFL, and they prove it, those fans don't talk a whole lot. They don't chirp a whole lot, which they deserve to, but for some reason they don't. But it's these teams that have the potential to be good, and they're right there, but they just never do it. Those fans talk the most. And during the AFC East Roundtable, the fan bases that always come at me and my other guys the most, it is either Dolphins fans or it's Jets fans. I feel like I never hear Bills fans going at it. And so I wish that I could have the Bills winning this game, but I just look at it and I say, look, you almost lost to the Arizona Cardinals week 1. And that is a good offense. I know you guys had Dan on here, and I was telling Dan, I told him, I said, look, before week 1 started, you are sleeping on the Cardinals. He thought that the Bills were going to win that game like 30-3. He thought they were going to blow them out. I said, look, don't sleep on Marvin Harrison Jr. Don't sleep on James Conner. Don't sleep on Kyler Murray when he's healthy. They're not a great team, but they're definitely not a team that you're just going to wipe out. Like, they could surprise some people, and they were winning that game against the Bills for a while. Now, Josh Allen was able to play superhero football. James Cook was able to cook, for lack of better words, and they were able to win that game, but they're going up against a different monster here. They're playing in Miami, which I feel like, as a Patriots fan, is one of the hardest places to play in the NFL, and people don't give that enough credit. I know that Dan brought up the stat last night that they're like, I think the Bills are like 11-2 or something like that against the Dolphins. So they obviously have the numbers, but both of your teams, guys, both of your teams definitely took a step back in one way, shape, or form. And I look at the defenses. I think that this is going to be an offensive-minded game, but I look at that Bills defense and I say, you lost so many pieces, more specifically in that secondary. I like that defensive line, and if you win, it's going to be because of that and that pass rush with Gregory Rousseau, who's tied for the most sacks in the NFL through week 1. But that secondary, you just lost a lot of pieces. You're going up against Tua at home. You're going up against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who both just had over 100-yard games. And I just don't think that they're going to be able to stop that offense. And I love Josh Allen. And again, he played superhero football. I think that Josh Allen is going to be in the conversation for MVP, but he didn't have his receivers do virtually anything last week against one of the worst defenses in the National Football League, if not the worst defense in the National Football League. Now you're going up against a Dolphins defense, which I do think took a step back, but they do still have a very good secondary, right? And I think we saw that last week. And I don't think that it's going to be easier for these Bills wide receivers to create separation, to get open, and to make plays. I think that if the Bills do end up winning this game, it's going to be because Josh Allen killed it on the ground. Josh Allen played superhero football, and James Cook had one hell of a day. I just think that at the end of the day, the Dolphins are going to have an easier time scoring points, and the Bills are going to have a harder time scoring points because they just don't have the receivers to be able to keep up pound for pound with the Dolphins. I think yesterday I said this game was going to be like 31-24 with Miami winning this one. I think Buffalo's going to start the season off maybe a little bit slower. I still think they're going to be a good team. I still think they're going to be a playoff team. I think they're going to get better offensively and defensively as the season progresses. You lost a lot of pieces, very important pieces, offensively and defensively. It naturally is going to take time for you to get past those deficits. Again, I think the Bills will be okay, but for this game specifically, I got to have them losing this one.
Yeah. And I agree with you where I think we have taken a step back in the defensive category, but I think it's a situation where you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward, where we ended up losing Fangio, who was one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. But then it comes out where the players didn't like him and they didn't like having him as a coach. Bring in Anthony Weaver. Hopefully he could bring in the Ravens style type of defense. There you lose Christian Wilkins. You add Calais Campbell, who I'm not even saying is in the same category, but we've seen what Calais Campbell could do, where he can be a big guy in the run stop and the pass, where he got a sack not yesterday, but on the weekend in the interior. And then you look at safety. The only big pieces is Jerome Baker and Deshaun Elliott. And then we replaced Deshaun Elliott with the Bills' own Landon, Jordan Poyer, and Marcus May, which I'm excited to see Jordan Poyer's revenge game. And realistically, I think Miami just gets it. I think right now, this is our time. It's at Miami. We beat them 2 years ago in Miami. There's been a heat advisory for days. It's been think it said today it felt like 105 at its peak.
Wow.
And it's supposed to feel like 99 at night, which is going to be ridiculous. The humidity is going to be super high. And obviously the guys playing it constantly through camp, they're used to it. I don't think that Bills team is going to be ready for that. I think there's going to be a lot of cramps. I think there's going to be a lot of, maybe not injuries, but a lot of dinks where they're not going to be feeling the best. And I think the Miami Dolphins offense does take it. My prediction was 31-27. And I mean, I'll just throw out what I tweeted. I think Tyreek's getting one. Jeff Wilson's going to get one with Mostert being out. Achane said he's good to go. He posted that on Instagram. As long as he's in, I think he's getting one. And then obviously Cam Lewis, without Teron Johnson in there, Cam Lewis is going to get feasted on. I think Berrios is going to have one. But Landon, what's your game predictions?
24-20 Buffalo. I mean, like you said, step back 100%. I wasn't a fan of the game play call wise that Bobby Babich called week 1, but it's his first week as a defensive coordinator. I didn't really like that he was calling the plays instead of McDermott to begin with, but I mean, McDermott obviously sees something. I'm hoping it was just first game jitters, But like Rich said, not having Taron Johnson is huge, and Cam Lewis isn't good against receivers at all, really. But I'm hoping to see Kyer Elam. I really hope we see Kyer Elam. I believe in him. But I think that the run game is what's going to win us this game. As my touchdowns being scored is going to be Josh on the ground, Ray Davis rushing touchdown, and a Dawson Knox receiving touchdown.
Ooh.
And I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as people are going to think, because I feel like that's just kind of the way that it's going to turn out. I mean, I feel like every time people say it's going to be a high scoring game, it never really is that high scoring of a game. So I'll stay low. And I just think that if our pass rush can get to Tua before he gets the ball off, bat down passes, we're going to win the game. It starts at the line of scrimmage, and I think that's how we win the game.
Yeah. And the one thing that I'm really excited about is the Dolphins had 3 guys in that last game that had a PFF over 80, which is very surprising. Without Robert Hunt, I thought our guards were going to be terrible. And Liam Eichenberg really stepped up. He had 70 snaps, and he had 0 pressures allowed, just 1 sack, and 80 PFF, which he really stepped up. These divisional games really matter. I mean, especially when it's playoff time and we got the same record just like last year. The divisional games is what really matters for seeding. How many divisional games do you think the Patriots are going to win this year?
How many divisional games? So look, I'm someone who believes that until you prove to me different, I can't take otherwise. That's why I still have the Buffalo Bills winning the division, is because it's kind of like the Patriots. In 2020, when Tom Brady left, I still said Patriots are going to win the division because until someone can dethrone them, how can you go against history? And the Buffalo Bills have obviously won the division over the last 5 years. So like with me, who knows how Gerard Mayo is going to come in and fare up against the Miami Dolphins, who I feel like just have owned the Patriots as of late, too, which seemed like he owned Bill Belichick, right? Maybe Gerard Mayo can kind of flip that script. Maybe he can't. We don't know. So until we see that, I still have to say that the Dolphins are going to win 2 against the Patriots. I think if they do win 1, if there's going to be a close game, it's going to be at Gillette Stadium. Patriots always going to Miami, though. They never fare up well. So I'm going to say, at least for now, got to go with history until I see different. I'm going to say that the Dolphins do beat the Patriots twice. I do think that they will get 1 against the Buffalo Bills. Drake May should be starting at least in one of those games, if not both of those games. I think that, the league's not going to know what to expect from Drake May. And I think that that's going to bode well for the Patriots. Not a lot of film on him. I don't think that Drake May starts anytime soon. I think as long as Jacoby Brissett looks good, doesn't turn the ball over, I think that there's no reason to throw Drake May into the fire. I think that it's either we see him halfway through the season or we see him the final couple of weeks just to get his feet dipped in the water a little bit before he takes over in 2025. So, maybe even that last week, the final week for the Patriots, I think that's their home game against the Buffalo Bills, if I'm not mistaken, because they play them week 16, and then week 18. So I'm going to say Buffalo Bills, they're in the playoffs. They rest some starters. Drake May starting. Patriots want momentum heading into the offseason. They win that final one there against Buffalo. And then you know what? I'm going to say they get one against the Jets. The Patriots own the Jets. And you know what? Until I see different, like I said, I can't say that they're going to sweep the Patriots, especially because they just looked human. So I'm going to say one against Buffalo, one against the Jets. They don't get one against Miami, though.
I like that. I mean, I like the take that you said none against Miami. Tua is 6-0 against the Patriots and 6-0 against the Jets. The thing that worries me is he's 1-5 against the Bills. So, I mean, when it comes to that, I gotta say we're gonna split with the Buffalo Bills. I think we're gonna get one tonight, and I think we're gonna lose in Buffalo. But realistically, I gotta see at least one win this year. I mean, this is Tua's year. He did just get paid. I need to see a divisional win against the Bills. We need to prove that we can beat the Bills. That one game, it was the butt punt. I mean, it was a good win, but also they had like their entire secondary out, and we had a lot of injuries too. But they had like their entire secondary out. Their line was hurt. I think right now, both teams healthy. It's a really good chance for Tua to prove himself. And I think we're going to sweep both the Jets and the Patriots. So hopefully, if I'm correct, 5-1. Landon, what are you thinking for the Bills this year in divisional wins?
I have a sweep of Miami again. I'm going to be honest with you. I believe we got that, but we probably are going to take a loss to the Patriots and the Jets because that's just what we do. I think it's going to be the same record as last year, 4-2. The losses being against the Patriots and the Jets. Now, the Patriots one is interesting because I don't know if it's either going to be at home or in New England because, I mean, over the last few years, the Bills don't lose much home games. They don't. But one that kind of sticks out, a home game they lost, was against the Patriots in 2021. The one that Mac Jones threw 3 passes or whatever it was.
What a game.
Yeah. So that's the one. I know we're going to lose the Jets in New York because for some reason we can't win in New York anymore. But I just don't know where we're going to lose the Patriots. I think we do play. Did we play them the last week? I don't know. I don't know the schedule.
Yeah, we play 16 and 18. It's like almost back to back, but they have a Chargers game mixed between. I think week 18 is at Gillette though.
Okay. I hope we don't lose at home. That'd not be fun. So I'm going to say we lose week 18. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to lose twice to the Dolphins, but that could change tonight. So,
yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. I would love a sweep, but realistically, I can't even say that we're going to sweep them when we haven't beat them in, I think, 4 games. And I know that one playoff game, it was rough with Skylar Thompson. It's not an excuse. The Buffalo Bills have our number. It's just been back to back to back. It's really tough. So my question for you is, what made you become a Patriots fan?
Yeah, so I'm actually, unfortunately, in Pennsylvania. So I'm growing up pretty close to Philly. Everyone's Eagles fans, which is tough within itself. But I grew up a Patriots fan, right? Everybody's like, oh, you didn't grow up in Boston. Like, how are you not an Eagles fan? It's just not the atmosphere that I was personally put around. My dad kind of grew up being a Patriots fan. So then I grew up being a Patriots fan. I grew up watching Patriots football every single Sunday. Even when I wasn't into football, I had to kind of suffer watching through it. So it's just naturally what I kind of gravitated towards. And then when I was in 7th grade, I went to my first training camp for the Patriots and everything changed. Everything clicked. And I became a Patriots fan immediately, started watching games that season. And then my sophomore year of high school, I started my YouTube channel because, again, I'm in Pennsylvania. There's not really a whole lot of Patriots fans around here that I can just talk football with and chop it up on a regular basis. And I wanted to do that every single day, every single game day. So what I was able to do is I created my channel just to connect with people. It blew up. It became a passion. I figured this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I found that out my junior year of high school, and I kept up with it. And Patriots strong now, man. Patriots strong. I've been there through the great moments because I was born in 2001. So immediately as I was born, we were winning, man. Tom Brady, we were winning. That's all I knew. And then ever since 2020, things changed. So I was there through the great. I grew up through the great. I'm thankful for it. Now I'm here through the bad. And hopefully we can transition back into the good.
Yeah, that's kind of the opposite of our story. where I am exactly how you were with your dad, where my dad was a Miami fan, so I grew up as a Miami fan even though I'm in Buffalo. But the problem is we didn't have that greatness. I was used to the 6-10, 7-9, 9-7 is a good season for us. And then Brian Flores comes along. I'm happy about that. He gets a first-round pick of ours removed. And now we finally have something. So I'm clinging on to this as long as I can. The need for speed, whatever we have. Personally, I think this will be a really fun, like, Killer Bees era. I just hope it doesn't end like it. I want a ring. I mean, I just want one in my lifetime. We have these from over 50 years ago, but
yeah, those don't matter, right? If they're not on like a streaming service, it probably doesn't matter.
Pretty much the same as the Bills, where I haven't had one they haven't had one in forever. So, Landon, I know you're from Buffalo, obviously, but what made you become a Bills fan? Just your location, or?
Probably my location and my dad, just because.
Yeah. So the one thing that I was thinking going into this was that the Patriots are one of the more underrated teams, and that's made me think about these two questions. Who do you have for your most overrated team and one of your most underrated teams in the league?
Overrated team? Look, I definitely have to stay within the division. I think the Jets, man. I think the Jets are definitely overrated. I think we saw that. I think they're human. At the end of the day, Jets fans thinking that Aaron Rodgers was going to come back and be MVP 2021. Like, dude, Aaron Rodgers with the Packers after Devontae Adams left in 2022 didn't even look all that good. Now we're talking about him having a season-ending injury, being an extra year older. He hasn't played real football since 2022. I think that they were a little bit overhyped. I mean, the two most important things, right? Quarterback and coaching. The rest of the roster doesn't necessarily matter. Now, of course, it does to a degree, but if you can hit on coaching and you can hit on the quarterback position, that is going to expedite the process, and your margin of error expands drastically. If you have bad coaching and, an average quarterback, I'm talking about like you need an elite top tier quarterback. And if you don't have that, really the roster around you needs to be perfect. The execution needs to be perfect. And I just don't see that from the Jets. Again, with Jets fans hyping, everyone trying to pin them in as like a top 3, top 5 team in the NFL and in the Super Bowl conversation. I never believed it after what we saw against the 49ers. I don't believe it even more. So I think that they're the most hyped up team. And I don't want to be biased here. But I do think that the Patriots are probably the most underrated team in the NFL. I mean, look, I get that the Bengals start off slow, but they went into Cincinnati, which is a very hard place to play, against Joe Burrow, who, yes, was coming off of that injury, but still, Joe Burrow is a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League. I stand all 10 toes on that one. Jamar Chase played in this game. He was fully healthy. He is a top 5 wide receiver easily in the NFL. I understand T. Higgins didn't play, but they have a good defense. They have a good pass rush. They have Zach Moss, who I think is a downgrade from Joe Mixon, but he can still, make some things happen. He's still a good running back. I would say he's a slightly above average running back, and the Patriots were able to still go in, get the upset week 1, despite all the questions, despite all the new pieces. Everybody's saying, well, what's going to happen when teams have the script on the Patriots? I'll take it a step further. I'm going to say, what happens when the Patriots figure out their own footing, when they start building continuity and they start building chemistry and they get their feet wet a little bit. So I think the Patriots are definitely the most slept on team. It was projected that they were going to have the largest deficit week 1 out of all matchups against the Cincinnati Bengals. That doesn't happen. They were like 9-point underdogs, and the Patriots almost beat the Bengals by 9 points. There was not a single time where the Bengals had tied the game. There wasn't a single time where the Bengals had taken the lead over the Patriots, and I think that was an absolute statement by this team. So they're not favored to win any other games the rest of the season still, believe it or not. So I feel like when that's the case and you just made the statement that you did, you got to be one of the most underrated teams, especially when people were pinning the Patriots in to have the first overall pick.
Yeah, I like those. I like both of those, especially since both were in the division. I agree with both. I think the Jets are overrated, and the Patriots, after what they've shown me, I think they could go out and beat almost anyone. They have literally nothing to lose and everything to gain. So that's a really good mindset to go into the season. Landon, what do you think your most overrated and underrated are?
He hit it on the Jets, man. I never believed in the Jets. Everything you said about Aaron Rodgers, nothing wrong about that. He did not look good after he lost Devontae in 2021, I think it was. I didn't understand where all this hype was with Rodgers. Yeah, he's a good quarterback still, but he's not what he used to be after that Achilles too. And I don't like you said earlier with that Jets D line too, that got like clamped up by the 49ers O-line, which outside of Trent Williams is not some outstanding top 5 unit. Like they're a solid unit, but they're not best of the best. And I don't think Robert Saleh's a good coach. I do not think Nathaniel Hackett's a good coach at whatever he's doing. And I mean, Garrett Wilson will be a star. Breece Hall will be a star. Sauce Gardner will be a star. But I don't know if it's all going to click. And I honestly think the Jets are going to win 8 games.
Ooh,
That's go 8-9.
I'd say that's a very hot take. 8 games.
I do not care. I
hope you're right on that one.
Right. But I just not a Jets guy. An underrated team. I'm going to dip into the NFC here. I'm going to take the Cardinals after I just saw the way they played the other day because, I mean, they look good. I mean, their receivers were shocking. I mean, I had Michael Wilson as a little bit of a breakout year. I like Michael Wilson. He was good at Stanford. Marv obviously didn't get the ball that much, but it's all right. Their run game is still good. Their O-line was shockingly pretty solid, other than allowing Greg Rousseau to have 3 sacks. But, I mean, in the beginning, their O-line was really good. It's just their defense, man. Their secondary's meh. Their D-line is not good. But, I mean, I think they could shock some people, maybe win 8 or 9 games this year.
Yeah, I mean, I see the Cardinals as a contender. I mean, I'm talking playoff contender, not like a contender.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that they can contend. I think anytime you have Kyler Murray, he's a guy where very underrated season, 3,900 passing yards and 900 rushing. Everyone made it a big deal when Lamar went 3,000 and 1,000. He almost went 4,000 and 1,000, and almost nobody was talking about it. Obviously, his MVP odds were high, but that's about it for him. I think they could go pretty far. For an overrated team, it has to be the Bears for me. They were going into the season where they just stacked that offense, and Caleb Williams, he's a rookie. He's not C.J. Stroud as of what we've seen. He's a rookie. He's going to make rookie mistakes, and he's going to end up being a rookie. I think they could be an 8 to 10 win team, but I don't think they're going to be as good as everyone is saying. They have Keenan Allen, who's on the downslope of his career. Rome Odunze, who I'm pretty sure he's out for 4 or 5 weeks. He's on IR. I'm almost positive. I'm not sure, though. And then, obviously, you have a stud DJ Moore. You have Gerald Everett, who's a pretty good tight end. You have DeAndre Swift, who honestly, other than PPR fantasy, I don't think he's that great of a running back. That's why he's been on 3 separate teams in 3 years. But you never know. Khalil Herbert is one of their more underrated players. And then, obviously, when it comes to underrated teams, there's so many underrated teams. I'm going to have to go the Ravens. They were not underrated until after this year, or after this week, where after this Chiefs loss, I think a lot of teams have actually almost writ them off, where I see on Twitter everyone's saying the Ravens aren't going to be all that. I watched the game. That Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson duo can be scary. Derrick Henry, obviously, they're saving his legs for later on, but Derrick Henry, when he's in, he was getting 8 to 10 yards a pop. If the line's blocking for him, Lamar Jackson is the most dynamic player we've seen, I think, ever. The way that he can run the ball, he's 4th right now with 120 yards rushing in the entire league. So he's so dynamic. I think that offense can be so high-powered. And then when you look at it, you got Roquan Smith, who hurts me because he should be a Dolphin. We didn't make the trade. Roquan Smith, who is literally the best linebacker in the league. You got Kyle Hamilton, who's a top 3 safety in the league, and he has so much promise as a young player. And obviously that bend don't break Ravens D. They always play without really high levels, so I think they could go pretty far this year. And then our last segment that I have written down is Super Bowl prediction. Obviously, it's week 1. It's a very niche Super Bowl prediction, but I want to know, what's your Super Bowl prediction this year?
My Super Bowl prediction this year is I think the Ravens, man. I think the Ravens are going to get in. I feel like they were so close last year, man. Like they really should have been in the Super Bowl. They were a Zay Flowers fumble away from ending up putting that game away and going to the Super Bowl. I think they're going to be extra motivated. I think that they're a really good team. You know, Rich, like you hit it on. And really, if Lamar Jackson can just be a little bit more consistent, which is what they're going to need from him, which I think he will be down the line, then I think they're going to be a scary team. I mean, in that Chiefs game alone, I mean, he had 3 opportunities to put that damn game away, and he doesn't. Obviously, couldn't get his feet set, which is going to be important. Offensive line was a little shaky for them. Hopefully, they can figure that out, which will be able to help the Ravens. But you had Isaiah Likely wide open, first attempt, you miss him. Then you have Zay Flowers wide open, still can't get your feet set. Again, that pass rush all up in your face, and then he can't make that throw. And then finally hits Isaiah Likely in the back of the end zone, but it came down to inches. That's what football was. And you know what? That's why you got to hit your 2 open attempts. When you're open as wide as Isaiah Likely and Zay Flowers were on those first 2 attempts, you got to make those plays, because that could be the difference between winning the Super Bowl and not winning the Super Bowl, going to a Super Bowl and not going to a Super Bowl. So I think the Ravens are going to represent it at the end of the day. I think they're going to be, like I said, extra motivated. They were so close. And then from the NFC, I think it's going to be the Detroit Lions, man. I think the Detroit Lions are finally going to do it. I mean, look, I really like the 49ers. I think the 49ers are a great team. But Kyle Shanahan, man, I feel like he always craps the bag in such big moments, whether it's the NFC Championship game, whether it's the Super Bowl. I think that the NFC Championship game is going to be the same that it was last year. And really the Lions, if they're able to just control time of possession, control the clock in the second half, they would be going to the Super Bowl. I think they're a good team. They brought pretty much that same team back. They added a couple of really good pieces too that I like, and they just get better. They just get better each and every single year. So I think they're going to be back there. I think the NFC Championship game is going to be the same as it was last year, and we're going to get a Ravens and Detroit Lions Super Bowl.
I love that take. I mean, I'm just so sick of the Chiefs. I cannot with the Chiefs and the 49ers. I cannot with them anymore. It's sickening. I just want some other quarterbacks to get some rings. We got to shake up the NFL. It's been the same thing for the last 4 years. Landon, what are your predictions this year?
Well, after what you just said, you're gonna hate what I say, and I hate saying it too. But in the AFC, I got the Chiefs going right now. I mean, the receiving core looks good. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. Their defense is still gonna be good. And I just don't see anybody as of right now dethroning them, which I hate saying. And they'll probably beat us again in the playoffs, but I'll have to take the Chiefs to make the Super Bowl. And then in the NFC, this one I got to think about a little, but I think I'm going to agree, and I'm going to take the Detroit Lions to go in the NFC. I mean, they're an explosive team. Their run game is insane. Their O-line's probably the best in football. I mean, their D-line's good, too. I mean, that secondary is a little meh, but, I mean, their secondary was even worse last year, and they almost made the Super Bowl. So I got the Detroit Lions going, and hopefully they win. But, I don't know. Patrick Mahomes seems kind of unstoppable.
Going into this segment, my prediction was going to be Chiefs-Lions, but I got to switch it up. So it's not going to be them. I'm going to surprise some people. I'm going to go AFC East, not AFC East, AFC the Colts. This is almost out of nowhere, but I'm really high on the Colts, where I think Anthony Richardson is an absolute dog. He had 3 touchdowns this last week, and when he was healthy last year, he was a freak. Fantasy monster. He's an animal. He kind of reminds me of Cam Newton, the way that he plays, and he has a cannon, like a Joe Milton cannon. So I really like that from the AFC. They have Jonathan Taylor. They have a really good line. Their defense isn't half bad. I think their defense is on the down from what it used to be, but it's still one of the top defenses. And then for the NFC, this is hard. If I really think, I'm just going to go in the same division. I think when Jordan Love gets back, the Green Bay Packers will get really hot, and I think they will go and make a deep playoff push into the Super Bowl. Final prediction, I'm going to say the Colts get it. Anthony Richardson gets his first ring, and it's staples himself as a top 5 quarterback. That would be a really fun future, in my opinion. I think
a little bit of a sleeper pick here in the NFC, but Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay could make a run. Baker Mayfield.
Baker is cooking. The Eagles too, man. The Eagles look like a good team. Also stay healthy. They're definitely a threat with Saquon. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like if you can run the ball successfully, it's going to open up your passing game, and it's hard to stop that. Like, to me, the first thing you have to do when playing a team is be able to take away their run game and make them one-dimensional. And again, if that team can stay healthy with that O-line and Saquon finally having an O-line and blockers, like, that could be a scary team.
Yeah, I could definitely see a Super Bowl rematch with it's like a Chiefs Eagles, but obviously I don't think
I don't think anyone wants that.
Nope.
To be fair though,
Nope.
hey, the game was a great game. It was a
It was a good
38-35
game.
win. I don't want to see it though. Personally, I don't care how good the game was. I don't want to see either of those teams back in.
No, we got that rematch last year with the Chiefs and the 49ers. We don't need another repeat. Give it a few years at least.
Yeah, at least a few. And I really do like what you guys are doing with the AFC East Roundtable, and where you guys are like Roundtable Sports. It went from the AFC East Roundtable to Roundtable Sports, and now you guys have all the divisions. I think it's really sick. Like that, it's like a whole Instagram page now. The Twitter's popping. I really like what you guys are doing.
Thanks, man. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. Everything's very new. I mean, this is the first season we're doing all this. We kicked off August 5th. So it's been just over a month that we finally started doing everything. Obviously I'm the Patriots representation for the shows on Wednesday. We have 2 live events coming this upcoming season, one in Miami, one in MetLife. But I also host 2 of them. I host the NFC South on Tuesdays and the AFC West also on Tuesdays. And I work behind the scenes helping to manage some of the social media. So there's a lot of things going. There's a lot of pieces still. At some point, we're hoping to expand and do even bigger and better things. Obviously, we already have a website. So there's a lot of moving pieces to it. There's a lot of different creators, but we believe in it. And that's what we need. We need people to believe in it. We need people to support us because at the end of the day, Roundtable Sports is bringing something that nobody else does. No one at ESPN. And that is that we are giving fans the voice from the fans, unbiased opinions. No one's paying us to say anything. None of that blue collar and, tighten up your tie crap. None of that. No, we're doing it the fun way and we're doing it the right way. And let me tell you guys, they're expanding. I know that they had I think they have one high schooler right now who's an intern. So you guys keep this up. There could definitely be roles for you guys at Roundtable. I promise you that.
Oh, for sure. I would love to do anything I can to help you guys out. I mean, I really have been watching since, I don't even know, 2020, 2021. Like when it first started, I've been a big TD guy. Obviously, I'm a big Dan Mitchell guy. I like what you're doing. The only guy that we haven't got on is Richie. We got to finish the gauntlet. I mean, I'm sure we'll get him on eventually, but he's a busy dude. So, yeah, everything you guys are doing, it's really exciting over there. And I really like how the fans finally have a voice, like a platform that they can talk and like, it's not all political, where I think a lot of this stuff is political, where, I mean, you look at all the drama that they have, the NFL Network, everything that's going on. It's not fun to watch. No one wants to wake up on a Sunday and go watch the NFL Network for 2 hours before the Sunday, but you could watch the AFC East Roundtable, watch you, TD, Dan Mitchell, Richie all battle it out. Scream
the
at
energy, baby. We got the energy.
Yeah, it's great. I really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you guys for having me on.
Yeah,
seriously.
It was a lot of fun, and I think this episode will be great.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you guys too, keep it up. You're doing great things here. Really, the best advice that I can give you is consistency. I feel like a lot of people, they do this because they want the notoriety, they want the views, they want the money. And as soon as you do it for those reasons, it's never going to work out for you. When I started, like I said, I wanted a place to just talk football. I literally didn't show my face or anything. I just did voiceovers because I didn't want, my age or anything like that to be taken away from the actual football side of things. And I think what you guys are doing is great. This is what the industry is becoming. I can promise you guys that right now. I mean, I'm in college right now on top of all this, getting my degree in sportscasting. And this is what it's becoming. It's not all television and TV. You even look at YouTube. They have their own kind of TV network and sourcing that they're doing. And this is what it's becoming. This is, that's why AFC East Roundtable and Roundtable Sports is doing what we're doing, is because it's becoming social media. It's becoming YouTube and these types of shows. So keep up what you guys are doing. If you have the passion for it, let it drive you and be consistent, man. Keep making content. The way that I saw it when I was posting is every single video you post, every short you post is another way for somebody new to find you.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we definitely have the right reasons. It's not a money thing where we just want to get the money and the views. We realistically just started this because we had ball knowledge and we wanted to share it and have fun. And it's been great. I mean, we're going on 9 months, 10 months, starting over in January. And it's been great. So, I mean, as our content evolves, the enjoyment that we have for it really has evolved too.
Exactly, man. And that's how it started for me. That's how it started for all the buddies that I've had. that I've met throughout this process, including Dan, Richie, TD. It started with that same exact love and just your knowledge and wanting to do more in the industry. So you guys are definitely in the right direction. Keep it up.
All right, everyone. I really appreciate everyone coming in. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and be ready because we are having Dan Mitchell on next Tuesday at 6 p.m. So you guys are going to want to be there for that. That episode is going to be on fire. We're going to be talking Dolphins, Bills. We're going to recap the game and see what's going on. Everyone, Richard and Landon, we are out. Have a good one.